Hey everybody, this is Connor Shank, and you're listening to the Constant Sports Podcast, the podcast that is committed to connecting you to other sports professionals in the industry. Because they say it's all about who you know, and today you know Casey Katofsky. Thanks for joining us today, Casey.
Appreciate you having me, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And as we are talking today with Casey here, he is the Future Legends Complex executive director and also a multi-sport owner. And we'll dive in much more into that aspect of Casey's career here. But in this episode, we're going to talk sports business, event management, facility management, different sports complex, team ownership, graduate school, and much more. So let's just dive in here, Casey. And could you kind of give the viewers and listeners a little bit, maybe a little bit of background on kind of how you got to where you are today? I know it's a very broad question, but just just a little bit kind of about yourself.
Absolutely. So I am born and raised in Los Angeles, Southern California kid my entire life. Uh, I was born into a sports loving family, a sports entertainment working family. And so it was kind of in our blood. I played baseball my entire life. I had been around sports every single day. And so I always knew that I wanted to be in the industry.
Mhm.
When I went to school, I still expected to play in college. I was a pitcher. I got hurt, unfortunately. And as I learned that I was no longer allowed to play or able to play baseball again, I wanted to make sure the academic side was taking me on the pathway that I wanted to be in a position like this at
Right.
the time. So I went to Santa Clara for undergrad. I lived in the Bay Area for college. Absolutely loved it. Incredible experience. It was the right school for me. Uh, and it was, kind of during the boom of social media
Mhm.
and startups, Silicon Valley. All the Bay Area teams were doing really well. The Warriors, the Sharks, the Niners, everybody. So it was exciting to be a part of that. From there, I kind of worked in different jobs throughout my time in college. I had multiple different internships, things that I liked, things that I didn't, but I just wanted to try a lot of different things out.
Mhm.
And from there, I knew that I wanted to get a little bit more education. I got my certification at Columbia, and then I got accepted to the Georgetown Sports Industry Management program for master's. And that uh, is a very unique program, very coveted, and it was something that I really wanted to make sure that I could set myself up for success to be a part of it.
Yep.
And that program is known for its faculty student relationship, where the faculty are all members of the sports industry executives. Where my first professor was actually Tommy Shepard, who is now was the general manager of the Wizards.
Mhm.
Right after he was teaching our class, and so people like that, you learn from people that have been through the same position that I've now been through. Uh, and from there, I moved back to the Bay Area. I worked for Under Armour for a while in the business development department. And then finally, I know we'll talk more about this project, but we had the opportunity to do something we've always wanted to do as a family and a business group, which is building, one of the bigger sports youth sports complexes in the country. And here we are, 4 or 5 years later. So that gives you a good spiel.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And just touching on that, so a little bit about kind of our listeners and I guess our audience here. They're either kind of in the sports management, sports masters, world industry and whatnot. So as you're saying, between you went to Santa Clara and then you ended up at Georgetown there. Did you apply to other sports management, sports industry programs, or did you just see Georgetown? You're like, this is the program for me.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. I had a bunch of different programs that I looked into. I really was one of those kids that I wanted to know every piece of information about
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mhm.
And being from LA and living in California the vast majority of my life, I wanted to be, try something else,
Mhm.
try something a little bit different. I know USF, University of San Francisco, have a really
Yep.
good program. So does Oregon. I said, okay, if I want to do something different, I kind of need to go to the East Coast for a little while.
Gotcha.
A lot of these bigger programs, the bigger names, they jump out to you in the sports world: Georgetown, NYU, Columbia, Northwestern. And I looked at all those different programs. And the fact that, as I mentioned before, Georgetown is so unique. They care so much about their students. The faculty is such a unique experience. It's people that from all around the world that you get to talk to and learn from that are still some of my best friends to this day, which is great. So,
Yeah.
and there are a ton of really good programs out there around the country. It's not like this is the only good program out there,
Mhm.
but it's one of the best for a reason, for sure.
Yeah. No, of course, of course. And then as you kind of go back in time here a little bit, as you graduated from Georgetown and you were entering kind of the workforce, what was that like? Was it stressful? Were you just sending in applications everywhere? Because I kind of a lot of our listeners and viewers, as I mentioned, are in that spot where they graduated. Now they're like, well, what do I do? Kind of how do I get a job? So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was stressful for sure, but it also was worth it.
Mhm.
People don't talk about the worth it part as much as they just talk about how, grueling it is and how,
Mm.
how much work you got to put in. Yeah, it's a lot of applications, it's a lot of resumes, but it's also, I mean, you build up. The reason why I had those connections was I tried to build up the connections kind of like you're doing now and other people in the same spot of meeting people and networking, stuff you hear a million times in
Yeah.
the sports industry. And I said, okay, now that I've been on the East Coast, I kind of want to go back to California a little bit, but I
Yep.
want to try something similarly. I want to try something new. I'd worked in college athletics for the last 4 years. I've been in a family that has been in professional sports my entire life. So every year growing up, every summer camp, uh, I was working in sports my
Yeah.
whole life. And I said, I've never really worked for corporate. Something that you don't hear that often. I said, I've never really worked for corporate. What is a desk job like? Because I want to make sure if I don't want to do that, I'd want to learn. I want to try it out. And if I
Yeah.
do like it,
Mhm.
I want to try it. And so, uh, Under Armour was a company that I'd followed for my whole life. I'd worn it, playing. I'm a big sneakerhead, so I've kind of followed the transgressions or the transformation between, different brands and people doing different things. Obviously, at the time, Steph Curry was kind of a hot topic, still is, but hot topic from his shoes. And so, always liked Under Armour in general and what they were doing. And then living in DC, right where Under Armour was kind of founded,
Yeah.
that was appealing. So they had a program in San Francisco. They acquired something called MyFitnessPal, which at the time was the
Mhm.
number one health app in the world. And so we wanted to, or I wanted to explore that a little bit, working in different side, working in the business development team, and moving my way up in that system uh, to getting to where I am now. But yeah, it's stressful. I mean, yeah, you have to find really what you want, but it's also somewhat, I don't know, relaxing, and that might not be the right word, but finding what you want to do and knowing that you can learn from whatever that you decide.
Yeah.
Yes, money is a portion of it, and yes, location is a portion of it. That's important. Like I'm not going to take it away, but knowing that I'm jumping into a new opportunity and I'm gonna get something out of it, whether I love it and this is what I want to do, or I find out that I don't like it and I learned that this is what I don't want to do.
Yep.
Sometimes that's just as valuable. You know what I mean?
Of course, especially at a younger age, when you're going in, it's like, all right, figure out, once you're graduating, like, okay, I don't like X. Well, now for the next, 50 years, all right, I'm not going to do X, so I'll do, Y and Z and whatnot. So it all goes with practice and time, and you're not going to learn that, a month after you graduate. It's going to take time, like you're saying. But just talking about different opportunities and I guess business ventures. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of what is it? You're a multi-sports owner, then you got this complex. So how does that all fit into kind of what you're doing now? Sounds like you're wearing a lot of hats. So you can kind of start and take that wherever, and then we can kind of shoot on different directions. But yeah.
For sure. What I do now is kind of carrying out a dream slash an idea that we've had as a business group for 20 years that, call it a side project at the time, now turning into a main project, a pipe dream, if you will, that has turned into a reality.
Mhm.
We always wanted to take some of the things that we've done. My family has been in not only the sports entertainment industry, but real estate. And so building hotels and building restaurants. And we always knew, what if we found the opportunity to build this mega complex with sports, youth related, professional hotels, restaurants, dormitories for kids to stay in? Like, wouldn't that be super cool to do everything in one place?
Yep.
Growing up playing in these different tournament venues, going to these different complexes, there's a couple of different things that you get. You're either in a very popular city and you're fighting with a bunch of other things going on at the same time to grab attention,
Mhm.
or a lot of the times just you're flying to somewhere that's more difficult to get to, that they don't have everything. They have the land, that's why they're able to build it, but there's not a
Yeah.
lot of restaurants, stuff to fly into. It's difficult to kind of navigate. Hey, I'm from Los Angeles. This is in North Montana. What if I'm from Florida? How am I going to both get there? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the professional sports side kind of fell into our lap. We bought a team in 2004 known as the Orem Owls. Well, technically, it was the Provo Angels. We moved them to the Orem Owls in 2005. We'd owned other teams as well as a family group. So again, I'd been through it my whole life. I'd worked there every single year on the side. I didn't have a lot of free time. It's amazing I still have hair and any sanity left for sure. Uh, but from there, we knew, okay, the professional team side is kind of a catalyst to getting the youth side around it and building the hotels and restaurants, et cetera. We were able to find the land. Long story short, we're here in Northern Colorado, one of the most booming places in the entire country
Mhm.
for multiple reasons. Building this facility that's nearing completion, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. No. And I've shout out to the Orem Owls. I worked there for summer. I think we were talking before, maybe in 2017 or 2018, but super fun experience. And the minor league system there's so many different teams and so many different opportunities where I feel like, as people are graduating and looking for sports jobs, just the minor league baseball system in itself has hundreds, I mean, thousands of teams might be excessive, but hundreds for sure, obviously.
Yep.
And that's just a whole new avenue of sports and sports jobs and things like that. But regarding kind of the future legends complex and whatnot. So how did you guys come to figure out, like you want X amount of fields, you need this much space, you want to bring in this team, how come not, a certain team here? Kind of what went into all that?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at kind of started with space. How much space do we have? There was a plot of land that had 118 acres, which is what we're on now.
Mhm.
And we said, okay, how do we balance this to make sure that it's attributed to all the different things we want to do? Okay, we want to have baseball, but we don't want it to be a baseball only facility. We want to have the professional teams. We have the stadium. Where what happens if we have a collegiate game? Do we have a separate stadium
Right.
that they can play in? What happens if there's a game at the same time? Okay, the hotels are going to need some space, the restaurants are going to need some space, and then from there we kind of picked and chose what we needed, and it just kind of fit like a puzzle almost.
Mhm.
We 5 years ago we didn't expect pickleball to be what it is today,
Yes.
and so we're building a pickleball arena now. Beach volleyball, people laugh at us. Beach volleyball in Colorado, you don't have beaches here,
Right.
but there's a ton of demand, and we said, okay, we actually have enough space that we can build 4 courts in kind of a
Perfect.
cool way. And so things like that, it kind of just kind of fit in every time we had a conversation collectively. And it's myself, my father, and Ryan Spilborgs, who played in the major leagues for a long time. Us three kind of do things together in different roles. I run things on the ground. Spilly is a kind of a visionary guy that also is here a good amount of the time. My dad works in LA, but as our acting CEO at the same time.
Right.
We all make decisions together. We were all 12 years old once. We all played. We all know, hey, this one was super cool if we were 12 now, right? And so we utilize that mindset and say, hey, we have some extra space. Wouldn't it be super cool to have this? Or this would be super convenient. This is a good business model. And then the rest of the puzzle just kind of fit in.
Yeah. And then, so what does, a typical day in your life look like, start to finish? I'm sure it's nothing's ever the same, but maybe just give the listeners and viewers kind of how you structure your week, how you structure your day, different techniques and stuff you use.
No day is like the last or like the next for sure. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, every day is different, as you mentioned. Uh, you wake up, you figure out what's important that day, what meetings you want to take, how do you make sure that you delegate what you need to. And I'm very lucky to have a very talented team that we have that they help me out a ton. But I do have a family and I'd like to be able to be with them at the same time.
Right.
And you don't hear a lot of people preaching work-life balance, family priorities. You got to manage that as well, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you got to be able to prioritize your family and the things that are important to you. So it's balancing. How do I make sure that I do a good job, that I lead this team, that we're getting things done in a complex perspective, but I'm also there for the misses and the future kids and stuff like that. So uh, to balance my day, it's really figuring out what are my priorities this day. What's something that I need to do to take care of both sides, work and personal. And every day is just kind of a new story, a new
Mhm.
chapter, and you kind of roll with the punches a little bit.
Yeah. No, I agree there. And what I guess you can maybe just this executive director role or some of the other roles, but what do you enjoy the most about the sports industry slash your current job now that you're in?
I mean, you're promoting fun. Like I
Mm.
think that kind of gets lost a lot of the time
Yeah, I like
in
that.
sports business and the positions that either I'm in or other people are trying to get into. You hear about the stress all the time. You hear about the grind and how you're not going to get paid very well. You got to work 90 hours a day and things like that. You're like, this is sports. This is fun. This is what we
Mhm.
watch on TV. This is what we idolize growing up. I love sports outside of my family more than anything. It's what motivates me. I like seeing the power that sports and athletics has on more than just watching the game.
Yep.
And so every day we get to not only affect other people that have the same mindset, but younger kids that are growing into being in the position that I am now. And so that's what motivates me the most is that I have the ability to quote unquote touch kids' lives in a way that's different than other industries,
Mhm.
other occupations. We're not doctors, we're not saving lives, we're not NASA, we're not doing anything like that. We're sports and entertainment. Like this is voluntary fun.
Yeah.
And so that's what we get to do every day. We get to sign up and show up to work, promoting fun and promoting athleticism and teamwork and camaraderie. That's not beatable, in my opinion, from any other industry.
No, I second that. And I think sports just does a great job in so many things, as you just mentioned, but it also brings people together and just be part of that process, start to finish, right? It's just so cool to see, especially when fans, you can see fans are invested and, they're behind it. And it just kind of makes me think of the current kind of sports story that's going on now with the Oakland Athletics and how they average, like 7,000 people. And now they're doing a reverse, the buyout sell
Yep.
thing where they had like 27,000, 28,000 people there last night. And, it goes to show that when you when you build it, there will come, right? So as you've been building the Future Legends complex here, have you seen kind of an increase in either like fan attendance, things like that from kind of where you had your other teams, or have you seen that increase?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a different community that has never had this
Mm,
type of professional sport in this way. So you're kind of building something from the ground up. There's a lot of people that have waited for it. There are a lot of people that are waiting for, everything to be finished. Because right now we're on site. Last year we
yeah.
had to be in Collegiate Stadium that was off site. Now we're in our own secondary stadium, and next year we'll be in our main stadium. So there's a transition process.
Mm,
The other teams have done this before. We're not the first people to do that, but we're dealing with a new community mindset that's so different than Utah. You said you worked for the Owls. I remember
mhm.
that. We are very different in Northern Colorado than in Utah Valley. There's just a lot
Yeah.
of different roles. There's a lot of different social things that go on, different types of people. And this area, as I mentioned before, is growing so fast, and it's no longer a secret. People talk about what are the best places to live in the country. I don't know a single place in the country that's better to live in the Fort Collins area in
Yeah.
Northern Colorado. There just isn't. There's a reason why it gets rated so high every year, these different lists. The weather's great, the people are nice, school is good, food's good, and there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of
Right.
sports. They just hadn't had teams to root for yet.
Mhm.
Denver, while it's only 45 minutes away, clearly been relatively successful the last couple of years in
Yeah.
sports, if not the last 3 days. Uh, they're looking for something local to attach themselves onto.
Yep.
And so we've gotten a ton of interest. We got a good amount of fans, but we also have a progressive grind of the more and more that we build, the more and more that we do, the more you look at consistent sellouts, fandom, etc.
Of course, of course. And how have you kind of, a lot, I'm kind of interested in the marketing side of things, especially in sports business. How have you, either, gained skills or gained current marketing practices that you've been implementing, and what have you seen work?
Yeah, we look at a marketing perspective. Our marketing team, I'm very lucky. They're very, very talented, both on the graphic side, the PR side, communications, anything. And so I have been in the marketing realm a little bit in my life,
Mhm.
learning what is successful, what's not. But one thing is you're dealing with people. These are human beings that you're
Yeah.
trying to market to. They're not robots. There's no exact science. You can talk to these professionals as much as you want. There's no exact science in how to market successfully because
Right.
each community, each person is different. And so it's learning, almost taking yourself as an audience member and saying, what is something that would attract you? Are you on Instagram scrolling that you see an advertisement like this and that attaches your or catches your eye? Is it watching TV? Is it hearing word of mouth? Like it's using yourself as an audience member
Yeah.
of, hey, I'm a sports fan. What would I want to see? What do I pay attention to? And then it's kind of making your strategy from there based on what the community wants. We did a kind of like a focus group survey when we first announced our soccer team, the Hailstorm.
Mhm.
And we said, what are the things that are more important to you as fans? Is it winning? Is it price point? Is it, brand transparency? Is it stuff like that? And, you might think one thing, but getting the feedback from them is, yes, they care about the team winning. They care about transparency more than anything. They'll pay
Right.
for a good ticket. They want to have concessions there, but
Mhm.
they just want to know, hey, here's why we're doing this,
Yep.
right? And they want the team to win. Obviously, everyone wants their team to win.
Mhm.
So it's learning what the community and what your audience wants and how you would fit in that situation, and then addressing from there. Because honestly, no one knows what they're doing. They're just
Yeah.
taking things that they think is going to work in the past. There's some precedent, but it changes every day. There's new
Mhm.
media every single day. So
Right.
it's all a revolving door.
Yes, especially in the sports industry, there was, I had a professor and he was like, why are we going to read a book on sports marketing and sports business when something new happens every day? We'll just keep refreshing the news cycle and you'll get a new topic. So as soon as you write the book, it's going to be out of date in 6 months anyway. So that's one thing
Right.
I enjoy about sports and kind of staying up on the sports world, sports industry. How do you stay kind of in touch with that? Is it Twitter, Instagram, kind of how do you stay, in the sports space?
Mostly through digital. I mean, you
Mhm.
mentioned the social platforms. That's kind of, I think, a lot of people get information, whether it's Twitter, YouTube. That way, I can watch highlights quickly. Nowadays, people have mastered the ability to see an entire game in
Yeah.
30 seconds. So So that helps when you don't have as much time. There are times where I just want to watch the 30 seconds of a game when
Mhm.
I wasn't able to catch the whole game. I try and follow different business news cycles, whether it's Sports Business Journal, Front Office Sports, the ones that I'm sure a lot of people do as well.
Mhm.
But it's also, I mean, my family, again, sports is like our religion. And so it's when I talk with my family members, when I talk with my brother, my father, it's always sports centric. It's not, you know, hey, how's your day going? How you feeling today? It's, oh, you watched the game last night. Did you see this? This guy was crazy. Uh, and so like it's just keeping up with the things that you're interested. It's so important in my perspective, this is just my opinion, to keep your fandom while you work in sports. A
Mhm.
lot of people lose their fandom, or they also think the opposite of like, oh, I just get to watch the games all the time. I get to work for the Yankees and watch games. It's not that, but it's also not nothing. Like you still
Yeah.
need to enjoy being a fan of the sport. That's what pushes
Mhm.
you forward. Otherwise, you're just doing a job. So
Yeah.
it's staying a fan. My family is from Pittsburgh originally, and we take sports very seriously. We don't miss Steeler games. Everything is black and yellow in our household. And so, like, that's something that we're so passionate about. No matter how many years that we're in this sports industry, like, we watch every game. We very much bleed black and yellow, black and gold. And so, like, that's important is to keep your fandom and know why do you like sports in the first place.
Mhm. No, yeah, I like that a lot, and keeping your fandom, kind of keeping that passion, keeping that drive, because at a certain point, it's you might not lose it, but things are going to get a little bit harder. It's going to be, hours are longer, but as long as you kind of have that, burning fire in you, that'll keep you going and get you to the good times. And um, like we've mentioned a few times here, a lot of the viewers here kind of in that graduate spot. But have you had time to kind of hire and do the hiring process? And maybe what do you look for, or what do you have your, manager or whoever does the hiring? What do you have them kind of look for, and future, I guess, employees, along anything along those lines?
So yes, uh, we do a ton of hiring in general. About 4.5 years ago, it was just me in this company, and now we have almost 200 people,
Wow.
which is pretty wild.
Mhm.
Uh, we have a very talented HR team. We also have different department heads for each executive level that have their own teams as well. What we look for with us is authenticity.
Mhm.
Everyone nowadays is very qualified, 50 internships, went to 90 different colleges. Like everyone's impressive
Mhm.
nowadays. Growing up, it's like if you just went to college, like you were kind of good to go.
Yeah, you got your
That
piece of
is that
paper. Yeah.
exactly. Nowadays, like it doesn't necessarily get you that unless you use it to your advantage. And so I like seeing what separates people
Mm.
from the next person. Everyone's resume is essentially good. Like if you're getting in the door at some point, if we have 100 people that apply for a job and I have one job to give, 99 of those, 98 are going to be good resumes, right?
Yep.
I can tell as someone that did apply to a bunch of jobs, I can tell when a cover letter is copy and pasted. I can tell when a resume is copy and pasted. I know when an email is copy and pasted.
Yep.
And so that's something that you don't think about, like, oh, I'm just going to copy and paste this and send this to 50 jobs and someone might like it. And I used to do that. Like, I'm not going to lie. I used to do that. Oh, I'll apply to 50 jobs, see who says yes, right?
Right.
Uh, and that doesn't necessarily work that much. It's almost worth like, here's 2 jobs that I really like.
Mhm.
I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to see if I can reach out with a letter. I'm going to send them a letter and I'm going to show my value. We've had people that have been hired because they kind of created a middle, like a smaller version of a business plan of like, I want to join your social media
Mm.
team. Here's what I would offer to the table. Here's something that I've noticed.
Yep.
Or I want to be in your sponsorship team. I follow these different things or different teams. I think this would be super helpful for you guys. And that's the stuff you remember
Yeah.
because that person cares about the job. And that's the people that we try and hire
Mhm.
for our team. And we've been very successful in finding a lot of good talent that honestly are more talented than me a lot of the time. I always say this. I'm good at this. This is what I'm good at.
Yep.
Everything else I'm not. I don't need other people being good at the same little thing that I'm good at.
Yep.
I don't need 50 Caseys,
Mm.
right? I'd rather have 49 other people that are good at things that I stink at, so we can all balance each other at or balance each other out. So if someone came to me and be like, "I noticed Future Legends uh, doesn't have this. I would like to be able to see if I can help with this because I noticed that you don't have it yet, right?" And so uh, that's what we look for is how do you find somebody that's going to offer something else to the table. But first and foremost, people don't talk about this so much. Someone that you want to sit next to,
Yep.
someone that
Yep.
helps that pushes you, someone that wants to be there, someone that has a good attitude, like that stuff matters to me. Because if you're
Mhm.
spending more time with those people than your own family a lot of the time, you want to enjoy sitting next to them. You want to feel motivated. You want to be good teammates.
Yeah.
And if you're not focusing on that, like the personality aspect doesn't mean you have to be extroverted, doesn't mean you have to be the loudest. It's just what can you do that provides a good attitude and a good work environment for everybody else. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, yeah, I'm with you. And it makes a bunch of sense. And I feel like, especially when people are applying for jobs, right? So kind of going the other way, and you're looking like, all right, would I like to work at this company? Maybe look at some people on LinkedIn that already work at that company. Follow some of the people, and maybe a lot of people say the culture and kind of how the company operates. But that's just as they're interviewing you, you're also interviewing them, of course. Like, if you don't like something that they do or don't do, then it might not be the place, for you, right? So it kind of goes two ways. And I think the kind of the pitch decks and some of the things that you've pointed out, that potential people that you've hired had, I think that's huge. Just going that extra step, just doing that one little thing, hey, kind of here's a sponsorship deck I created, and then attaching that with your resume. It's going to take you, I don't know, maybe do a little bit of research, find some brands that they could connect with, things like that. That actually goes, as you've been saying, it goes a lot further than just, here's my resume, here's my cover letter. Like, this is what they asked for, this is what I'm going to give them. That's like, you're just adding, there's a stack, and you just put yours in the middle of that stack. So, it's going to be hard to get your resume out of that stack,
Preach.
And then kind of staying in this vein here, regarding kind of the skills, interpersonal, maybe just different skills like that for in your career specifically, what have you seen, some of the places where you've grown the most, or you've been like, okay, I'm not very good at, X, I need to figure this out. Maybe I need to read some books on this or see how I can get this skill better. What are some skills that you've kind of been like, okay, I'm going to need these?
Personal communication skills are extremely important. You got to be able to talk to people. So that's something that you hear in the sports industry, especially when you're kind of entering that realm.
Yeah.
It's people say it's ticket sales or it's social media, right? That's the two avenues. People are like, oh, that's where you're gonna have to start. So I did the ticket sales route. I've done that, almost a decade of my life.
Yeah.
And you hear, oh, it's got to be scripted. You got to make sure you have everything super buttoned up. And I would hear that from different people that are like me now in this position. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, I got to read from a script and I got to do all this kind of stuff and make 1,000 phone calls a day. Then afterwards, you're like, if I get that phone call, I'm
Not
hanging
answering
up the
that.
phone.
Yeah.
So it's learning, how do I talk to people? And not whether you're in ticket sales or not. You could be an engineer, you could be a doctor. You got to talk to people.
Mhm.
Every position you have, you're selling something in some way or not, right? And I just kind of learned, you got to learn how to talk to people. You got to walk up to somebody and shake their hand. You got to have a conversation. And I'm kind of this goofy, wacky younger guy. Instead of using that, as like a thing I need to apologize for, like, use that to my advantage of like, this is
Yeah.
now how I can communicate with people. I can try and build more trust this way, as they're not getting fluff, they're not getting a script, they're getting something directly from me.
Right.
And so that's something that I learned, is like, how do I have my own voice? How do I communicate with people in a way like I'm talking to you now? Of, this is who I am. How I'm talking to you now is how I talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't I don't
perfect. Yeah.
change myself whether I'm talking to, I say this all the time, the CEO of Apple or the janitor at McDonald's. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a goofy guy no matter what. And so you see people, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this in your life as well. They kind of change their personality, they change the way they talk to people based on who they want to talk to.
Yeah.
And so I learned again how to talk the way that I want to, how to be my own self, how to be authentic, as I mentioned before,
Yep.
that's what we look for. And that's probably the best skill that I learned, is what am I good at? I'm good at talking to people. I'm not good at building graphics. I'm not good at calculating the accounting side more than just overview stuff. Like, okay,
Yeah.
that's people we can go find, right?
Right.
They can complement that. And then if they're not as good at the communication side or something like that, I can say, hey, here's what I can teach you. Can you teach me? It's a give and take.
Yeah. No, it's huge. And I think it's kind of just finding, we've talked about it a little bit, but what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then just find where you're authentic at, and don't try to be someone you're not. Obviously, is like, people always say that, but yet there's still kind of a lot of people that do it. It is what it is. But I guess as we're kind of wrapping up here, what's something you see, kind of, where do you see either yourself or the Future Legends complex kind of in the next 5 years? How do you see that progressing going forward?
I mean, next 5 years, next 10 years, 75 years, we want to be, at the top
Mhm.
of youth sports complexes in the country. We think that's a very attainable goal, and how we're set up to achieve the goals that we have, from the different events and tournaments, and more teams we like to acquire. I didn't even mention the Grand Junction team that we have that we just acquired.
Mm.
We would like to be able to hit that pinnacle. If this is how youth sports and how the experiential side can be, combining the professional side, having hotels on site, having restaurants on site. And we're, a year away from fully being completed, and we're starting to see that, like, that glimmer of this is pretty sweet. Like, we
Yeah.
can get this done. We've already had some big events. We've had our professional team start. And so 5 years wise, like, that's not that long ago, not that long away.
Right.
Time goes so fast. Or
Mhm.
5 years ago seems like yesterday. And that's like
Mhm.
the classic, like, middle-aged adult thing to say.
Yeah.
Uh, so 5 years, 10 years, it's the same goal. It's like we want to be the pinnacle. We would like other people to look at this model and say, hey, well, that makes way more sense to have dormitories and hotels on site, and they
Oh
don't have
yeah.
to leave the site to go eat food. And so it's kind of creating this newer thinking of, wow, like this makes way more sense, and getting people more used to this style. That's what our goal is from like an overview standpoint.
Yeah, perfect. No, I love it, and I'm looking forward to watching it along with the listeners and viewers here, as you've heard, and I guess we'll all be able to watch now for the next 75 years, what have you. So we'll just wrap up here, Casey. Here, we'll give you the floor, maybe where people can connect with you, how they can connect with you. Like I said, give you the floor is yours. If you want to announce anything, say anything, it's all yours.
No, 100%, man. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys. This is something that, again, I've been in your shoes before. I know the position that you've been in. And that's something that I learned. That I had a lot of mentors when I was in, let's say, your shoes or somebody
Mhm.
else that's listening in their shoes, uh, looking for someone to give quality advice, looking for someone that kind of understands what I'm going through, that's not just giving me fluff. And
Totally.
so I want to be able to give the same thing back. I'm a part of a couple different mentorship programs with the same thing that people did for me. So if someone would like to reach out on LinkedIn, Casey Katofsky on LinkedIn, uh, futurelegendscomplex.com is kind of where the project website is. You can find a lot of myself, my staff, contact information, etc. Uh, and I'll say stay tuned on social media as well. We got some pretty cool things coming up. That's a shameless plug as well. If you're ever in the Colorado area, you ever want to see some cool things on the youth and professional side, come check it out. You got a tour ticket on me for sure.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, great. Well, you heard it here first. So thanks again, Casey. And for other listeners and viewers, you just listened to another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast, and we'll see you next week.